welcome back. For those of you who have been here before and for those of you who are brand new, my name is Lindsay Birch and this channel is all about discipling kingdom leaders. Today I've actually got my friend here. Her name is Tahlia. Say hi, Tahlia.
Hello, nice to meet you all.
Tahlia is a good mate of mine and I'd like to ask her a few questions and hopefully the answers will be helpful to any and all of us here today. So stick around, we're about to have a really fun interview. So Tahlia and I have known each other in like a weird way. So we met each other like 7 years ago, I think. One time we were both attending one particular church and we met and we chatted, like we had an awesome conversation. It was amazing. And then I never ever saw her again until earlier this year. So we've only been back in contact for the last few months.
In saying that, you were very memorable. I remember seeing you, and we'll probably cover it a little bit later, but yeah, I remember seeing you and I was like, oh my goodness, I recognize you. Like, I forget your name, but I know who you are.
Yeah. Same thing for you. I recognized you. I was like, that's a cool person that I talked to like a long time ago.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So can you tell me where we met just recently?
So recently, I was doing like a Bible school. It's called Arise. So it's held in New South Wales and it's run through the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And basically they just run through kind of the story of the Bible, what it means and how to apply it to your own life. Yeah, it was the most amazing experience. I would highly recommend Bible school to everyone if you're wanting to learn more about God and the Bible and what it's all about. Yeah, a lot of what I took away from it is kind of learning to develop your own personal relationship with Jesus. And a lot of us were kind of coming out of negative, I suppose, lifestyles and just finding God. It was really cool to just be around a lot of people that were discovering who God was to them.
Cool. Yeah, so I wasn't studying at the Bible college. Obviously I was working and hanging out with you guys here every Friday, but I came down to visit because another friend of ours, I'd encouraged her to go to this Bible school, popped down to visit briefly, and yeah, that's how we bumped into each other. So, hey, can I ask you some questions about your testimony? Would you like to tell us how you came to a relationship with Jesus and got to the point where you went to Arise and what you're doing from there?
Sure. Yeah, so I grew up in a really lovely Christian family. My family was prayer was a big focus in my family. And so, yeah, that was kind of my upbringing. There's nothing more to say really about that. I guess my testimony sort of starts more when I was 17 and I met someone who was really special to me. And yeah, we started off just courting, which if anyone doesn't know what courting is, it's just getting to know someone as a friend. You kind of hang around them in a friend group first before you really kind of make anything serious, because you want to look at their characteristics around other people and see how they treat other people, right? So yeah, we courted for nearly a year. And then we started dating, and we were only dating for about 8 months. And he proposed, and so I said yes, and I was very excited. But unfortunately, he had some issues with his mental health. He had epilepsy, and the medication that he was on caused a lot of depression. So he was very much unsure about, I guess, his future. We were both very young. Like I said, I was only 17, 18 at the time. And he was 5 years older than me, so about 23, 24. And so, yeah, he was thinking about marriage seriously. And so, yeah, we planned a wedding date and everything, but it just wasn't the right time for him. So we kind of called it on and off a little bit until finally I said, look, I think you just need to sort out your mental health. I think it's going to be healthier if we sort of separate ways for a little while. I'll focus on what I want to do in life. You kind of focus on your mental health, and then we'll reevaluate in a couple of months. The weekend, it's really interesting because this kind of dictates the way God has really shown himself in my life. So the weekend that I broke off the relationship, so his name was James. When I broke off the relationship with James, I was living on the north side of Brisbane at the time, and I went home to my mum and I was like, oh, I've just broken up with my fiance. What do I do? Anyway, she was listening to me. She didn't say anything at the time, but I went back up to the place I was living in the north side of Brisbane. And my mum rang me halfway through the week and she said, hey, how would you feel about doing nursing? Because I was actually already doing enrolled nursing in Brisbane. I said, well, yeah, why not? So she said, oh, okay, I've actually already enrolled you. I was like, what? I said, okay, well, if they accept me, I'll go. Turns out they'd already started. So, first of all, I had to do a bridging course to be able to do nursing because I didn't finish year 12. And so the bridging course had actually already started when my mum enrolled me. And so I said, well, look, if they accept me, then I'll go. My brother was doing teaching at the college at the time, or university, and he was meant to be leaving 3 days later. So this is Wednesday. He was meant to be leaving Sunday. And so she said, okay, I'll let you know. I'll keep in contact. Then Thursday she rang me. She said, okay, you got an acceptance letter. You're going to Avondale. I was like, what? Like, that was so quick. And so Friday, I packed up all of my stuff on the north side of Brisbane, went home. I was living out west of Brisbane. Like, my parents were living out west of Brisbane. Unpacked my car, repacked my car for everything that I needed to take to Avondale, because I didn't want to pack on the Sabbath.
Yeah.
And we were ready to go Saturday night.
Wow. That's very quick.
Very quick. And
spontaneous.
Right.
And out of the blue.
So out of the blue.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went to Avondale College.
Which, by the way, is, for those of you who've been following long enough, you know that's where I went as well. So we both went to the same uni, but just a few different years apart, basically. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so a little bit of a backstory with Avondale College. The church that I went to, they had heard some negative things about Avondale College. So they kind of said, don't go, like, there's drugs there, you'll find... Pretty much they said you'll find the devil there.
I think I was told something similar.
Yeah, so I was very hesitant to go for a very long time. But my mum had gone, my grandparents had gone there, my grandparents studied teaching, my mum started teaching, I think, as well. And so I was like, oh, I'll go, I'll do nursing there. Yeah, so went to Avondale, and so, yeah, James, my fiance, we'd both been told the same thing. We'd both considered going to Avondale, but because of what we'd been told about it, we were like, no, we're not going. Anyway, I was down there for about 6 months, and then James's uncle James had a wedding.
There's too many Jameses.
It's not confusing at all, right? Anyway, I'll call him Uncle James. So James's uncle James had a wedding, and so James came down to visit and met up with me and went for a walk around the campus, and he said, oh, this place actually looks really cool. I might actually apply. It doesn't look as bad as what everyone's saying it is. So I find out, because I had said to him, I said, look, while you're looking after, while you're trying to sort out your mental health, I think we should kind of take a bit of a break, which we hadn't been. We were very terrible at taking breaks. We were talking all the time. We were in love. We loved each other. We really did. And so, yeah, he came down, and then the next year he enrolled in theology, and I've been told by his family that he really did it because he was hoping to win me back. James ended up coming down to Avondale and studying theology, and we talked a fair bit. He really wanted to try and pursue the relationship with me a bit more, but I said, look, we'd broken up quite a few times, so it was really important for me to be able to have some space and really clear my mind and know what I wanted if I was going to pursue him. I really wanted to be clear on that. I didn't want to have him influencing my emotions all the time. So I basically said to him, I said, look, I need 2 solid months with no talking, because every time we talk, I get emotional and I love you, and it impacts my train of thought. Anyway, he couldn't do it. He was like, no, I just need to talk to you all the time. So yeah, we kind of had this weird relationship in 2013. That was the year that he started theology, and that was the year that I started nursing. And then in 2014, so he was in his second year of theology, I was in my second year of nursing. I went home for the holidays. I went to visit my parents, and my mum had been feeling a bit sick. So my mum was a mental health nurse, and she said that gastro was going around her ward, and that she was feeling the symptoms of gastro as well. But everyone else had gotten over gastro. The symptoms usually last for about a week, and hers had been going for about 3 weeks, and so she felt like she should probably go and see the doctor to see why she still had symptoms. I'd been with her, I think it was about a week's holiday, and it was the last day that she went to the doctor. So I said to her, oh look, let me know what the results are, like let me know what the doctor says. And so I was traveling back to college with some friends, and it was a tough drive. So one of my friends was suffering from borderline personality disorder, and she went through an area that was very spiritual, and the spiritualism in the area really impacted her. She really had a massive panic attack and everything. And another friend of mine who was driving, she's a huge animal lover, and she ran over a kangaroo. So both of my friends were just distraught on this trip back to, it's near Newcastle. And so I was kind of like the one that was holding them together a little bit. I was like, you guys, it's okay, like, just breathe, this sort of thing. And I was in the back seat, and then I get a message on my phone, and I notice it's my mum, and the message said, I have cancer. And I was like, whoa. I was the strong one in the car. I was the one that had been supporting my two friends through the stuff that they had been through. And all of a sudden I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, what? That really impacted me in a way that I wasn't expecting. My grades in nursing started to decline. This was 2013 that I found out about this.
Yeah.
And yeah, so this was my first year of nursing, towards the end of first semester going into second semester. And yeah, so my grades really started to plummet because I was really distracted by what was going on at home. It was really lovely because my whole family was supportive. James, he kind of made that another way to support me and encourage me and just, you know, be around me all the time. And yeah, then in 2014, so my mum was getting more and more ill, and in April of 2014 she ended up passing away from cancer. Actually, that's a blessing in itself because my entire family was there surrounding us, because both my brother and I were down like in New South Wales, so it wasn't very common that the whole family was home. And so yeah, I was there, my brother, my aunt and my uncle, and even James was there on the day that she passed away. So it was really beautiful just having that comfort around me.
All family there.
Right. So yeah, that was a real blow. At that time I'd gotten into another relationship. I started questioning God. I couldn't understand how he could allow someone so, like, my mum was beautiful, and I couldn't understand how he could allow someone as beautiful as my mum to go through something so traumatic. And so I started really kind of neglecting God. I stopped doing my devotions. I didn't really care about going to church. I stopped hanging out with good friends, and I got into this relationship that was really, I mean, he was a nice guy, but it wasn't a Christ-like relationship. There's sexual immorality in there, and then things got even worse. I think it was either July or August. I'd said to James, I said, hey, look, I really need 2 months. Like, we've been really talking a lot, and my emotions are really clouded. We really need a break. I really can't keep talking to you because, like I said, I really liked him. I really loved him. And so he said, okay, fine. And that was when he stopped talking to me. And then in October, I started seeing him around a bit more at college, and he looked amazing. He looked really handsome. He'd lost a bit of weight. He'd cut his hair. He'd shaved. Like, he looked like a new person. Like, he looked like the person that I'd wanted him to be when we were together. And so I just was like, wow, you look amazing. But he was really nervous around me because I'd broken his heart. And anyway, so went on this nursing placement, and on the Monday of that week, I'd been putting out the bins at the place I was living at, and I received a message from him in the afternoon, and he said, I'm really, really sorry that I didn't say hi. I wish I had stopped to say hello to you. If I see you again, I will make sure I definitely stop and say hello. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet that he's thought about me. Anyway, so I was thinking about this message, and I responded to him. I was like, thank you, yes, please do. I'd love to catch up. Friday, it came to the end of the week of placement, so I was on nursing placement, and I was on morning tea break, and I went to my bag and I looked at my phone and I saw that his parents had rung, and his parents never ring me, and I was like, okay, something is wrong. What has happened? I rang them straight back, and they answered pretty much straight away, but there was just silence at the end of the line, and I was like, oh no. I said, he's dead, isn't he? And they said, yep. He passed away from a seizure. And so that just blew my mind. I was like, what And so, like, I was already questioning God. I couldn't understand how he had taken my mum. And then he'd taken who had, like, the person that had been my fiance, the person I was going to marry, the person I thought that was going to be my life partner. I just couldn't understand it. And so then, yeah, I started hanging out with, or more with, like, the wrong crowd. I didn't want to have anything to do with God. Although I kept going to church because I felt like, in a weird way, I still believed there was God, right? But I just couldn't see the point in having anything to do with him. I guess I went to church to keep up appearances. So I don't know if anyone else does that. Yeah, it's so easy to do. You can look like you're a very good church member, go to church every week, but you're really not there in your heart. And so that was me. And just slowly, over time, I kept slipping away more and more, until eventually I started hanging out with friends that were doing drugs, started drinking a fair bit, and just trying to find anything that would make me happy that wasn't God. And started going out clubbing, but every time I went clubbing, I'd get super anxious. I just never felt happy. I felt like there was something missing. I just kind of started thinking about, like, I wanted to do everything by myself. I didn't want God. I didn't care about God. I was like, I can do this on my own. I don't need you. Like, leave me alone, sort of thing. And so I had that mentality when I finished nursing and getting into my first nursing job. I was like, yeah, I can do this all by myself. But slowly I started thinking about the times when God had been there for me. Like, for example, when he led me into nursing, the story I just told, but also through that period of time at Avondale College when I was kind of going through a lot. This was kind of when I was starting to get into drugs and hanging out with people that were taking drugs. There was one evening where one of my friends lived up on the Central Coast in New South Wales, and we were travelling from Sydney to her house. And my friend said to me, oh, you drive my car, I trust you. So I got in the car, I started driving. He starts encouraging me to go faster and faster. The highway from Sydney to the Central Coast is a 3-lane highway. And he was like, you can go faster, faster, faster. And I got up to 180 kilometers an hour. And
that's a lot, guys.
That's really fast. And I was like, I don't feel comfortable going any faster. He goes, I've gotten to 190, you can go faster. And I was like, no, I feel like the car is starting to vibrate. I don't have as much control. I don't like this. 180 is my max. Like, even that I wasn't comfortable with.
I'm uncomfortable just listening to the story like 6 years later.
Anyway, did that for a couple of kilometers, and then I was like, it's a lot. So let's back it down. I'll do 140. It's still fast.
But still, you gotta lose your license.
Right. He's like, no, it's all right. There's no cops. I do this all the time. And I was like, oh, okay, rightio. That's good to know. We got to my friend's place. I was a bit like, like, I submitted to him. Like, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I didn't feel good about it, but it happened. Thankfully, we got there in one piece. And this was the first time I actually ended up trying marijuana. And
wait, before or after the driving?
After the drive.
Okay.
With a couple of friends, and
okay.
This guy had some as well, and I had the worst experience. Just never try it again, ever. But yeah, it felt like I was there forever. It felt like I had been there for about 3 days. It'd only been about an hour and a half, and we decided to go back home. And because I was feeling so out of it, I was like, are you guys sure, like, we can stay here for the night at my, like, the friend's place on the Central Coast? Like, I didn't want to drive back. I just didn't feel comfortable because I knew that everyone had been smoking. And my friend's like, no, I'm not feeling it. I'm fine. I can drive back. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Anyway, heading back down to Sydney, he was doing the same thing, but this time he was obviously under the influence of drugs. But he was doing 180, 190 kilometers. I was under the influence as well, so it was making me really tired, and I ended up just falling asleep in the back seat. And next minute, I hear this screaming, and I just wake up and what happened? Turns out there was a car sitting in the middle of the highway, facing the opposite direction, and at the last second turned his headlights on. And thankfully, my friend who was driving happened to be in the outside lane, which you'd never do, right, when you're doing that kind of speed. You'd normally be trying to sit in the middle lane. And somehow we just missed this car by mere centimeters. Like, it was just crazy. And I never forgot that. I just kept on thinking about it and thinking about it. I was like, we should have all been dead. Like, traveling 180, 190 kilometers an hour on the highway and hitting a car that's sitting still, there's no way we would have survived. And so, yeah, that was also another thing that kind of made me think about whether God cared for me. Because I wouldn't be here to tell the story. So my mental health actually started going down because of everything that happened. And so I ended up taking 6 months off in 2016. And I wanted to continue nursing, but so much traumatic stuff had happened while I was down at Avondale that I didn't want to go back there. It just made me depressed and anxious and unhappy. And so I thought, oh, well, I'll come back up to Queensland, up to home, and I will try and get a nursing job, try and study nursing at one of the universities here. And also my grandmother was getting quite old, and so I said, okay, well, I can get a carer's pension potentially, and then study, and that's me sorted. But things didn't quite turn out like that. My uncle said that he wanted to be her carer, and so we were kind of arguing about that a little bit. And I tried re-enrolling in another university, and they said, look, you may as well just finish at the university you're at, because you're going to be adding another year and a half onto your studies on top of what you would have been doing at Avondale. And so it just seemed to me like doors were just closing everywhere for me in Queensland. And I thought, well, I'll just enroll at Avondale. I really don't want to go back, but I'll enroll just in case everything else falls through. And everything else fell through, and God made it so easy for me to go back to Avondale. So I went back to Avondale halfway through 2016, and I graduated in 2017. So before I took the break, I was failing a lot. I just couldn't keep up with classes. My head was clouded, but I needed the break, I think, because when I came back, I felt my mind was so much clearer. I'd sorted out the stuff, the stuff that I was dealing with, and I started getting distinctions and credits, and I was like, what? I was capable of this? I thought I was dumb. But yeah, it was really exciting to see that I was capable of doing better. And so then I graduated, got a job in Queensland, because I knew I didn't want to stay down in Sydney. I was like, Sydney's just too much for me. But this is where I could see God working in my life. God was opening and closing doors, and that's what he does in my life. That's how I see him talking to me, I suppose. I don't hear a audible voice. So I saw how God was leading in my life with opening and closing doors. And so slowly I started thinking more about God, even though obviously I had all that stuff in my past where I was like, no, God doesn't care. But slowly I started thinking, I was like, maybe God does care. Maybe I should start talking to him. Maybe I should recommit my life to him. And I started attending a new church, and I was around people that were really on fire for God, just were super curious about God, and started reigniting this fire in me that, I'd never really studied the Bible much before. I hadn't really thought about how God loves me. And so, starting to talk to these people that really showed that through the way they lived. I was like, this is so cool. This is something I've never seen before. And so, I started reading my Bible every day, attending church regularly, getting excited about God. And I still kind of had I wanted to build a house last year, and I was like, I need to pray about it. I need to see if God thinks this is the right thing for me to do. But I never prayed about it, and I just went ahead with it on my own. Still self-focused, self-praising, I suppose. I don't know. But I thought, I'll just build this house. It makes sense. This was 2019, 2020. I was thinking about it. And then in last year, 2021, I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to go to the bank. I'm going to, put in for a mortgage. I'm going to go and find a builder. And he's and build a house. And then last year, COVID happened. But with that, as a nurse, there was mandates around COVID and all this sort of thing. And at the time, like, I just wasn't comfortable with how things were going. It was just a personal opinion on it, but I was a bit cautious with everything. And 3 weeks before my hospital mandated the vaccine, my builder sent me an email and said, oh, your contract has been breached. We can't build your house for the price that we quoted you. We have to add nearly $100,000 on top of the price they'd already quoted. And I was gobsmacked. I was like, what? I can't afford another $100,000. This is crazy. So I said, look, I'm going to have to mutually terminate this contract. I can't continue. I am only myself. I'm on a single person's wage. And I think that was kind of God showing me that wasn't the right plan.
Yeah.
And then 3 weeks later, I got notice that unless I took the vaccine, that I wouldn't be able to continue working. And I kind of said, well, I'd rather see how everything goes and then make a decision on whether I get vaccinated later on. And so I kind of notified my workplace. I said, look, I'm just going to wait. And it was daunting because I didn't know what I was going to do then. Like, kind of this house and work was my whole entire life. And so I felt really lost again. And so I ended up going up to the Sunshine Coast for a whole week. And I did just a week of prayer and fasting, just kind of searching God out, reading His Word every day, praying a lot. And it was one of the hardest weeks. Like, I felt attacked. I got like a massive parking fine. The traffic, I am the worst person in traffic. Don't ever drive with me in traffic. I'm yelling and I seem like a nice person until I start driving. And so, yeah.
Good thing we've only driven in the mountains together.
No, I'm not too bad. But I'm not too bad.
No traffic there.
But no, the traffic was a standstill for 3 hours, and I was like, I just want to get home. I'm really, like, I'm hungry and I'm not in the mood. So yeah, there's all this stuff that I was just like, man, God, like, help me. I can't deal with this on my own, and I need you. And I got back home, still not sure what I was going to do with my future. And I rang my best friend, and I told her what I was going to do. I said, oh, I'm going to be off the grid for a week. I'll let you know how it goes. I rang her at the end of the week and I said, I still don't know. I have no idea what God wants for me to do in my life. And she, as we were partway through the conversation, she said, oh, I feel really convicted to tell you to go to a rise. And I was like, huh. And I'd been feeling a bit anxious because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then as soon as she said the word arise, just this absolute peace came over me. I was like, that is what I have to do. I have to be doing a rise. And so registration wasn't even open yet. I had to wait another month. I was like checking every day. I was like, is it open yet? Can I register for a rise? And the day it opened, I was like, I think I was the first one to register. And yeah, got through. And yeah, I guess that kind of brings me to this year.
Going to a rise.
Going to a rise, where I met you for the second time, where we caught up again.
Yep, in the cafeteria.
In the cafeteria, right? And I recognized you and I was like, oh, there's that cool girl that I met like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think up to that point, I had so much self-pity that I was just focusing on myself and what I wanted, and that I wasn't really thinking about God or like what He wanted in my life. And so yeah, kind of going to a rise sort of reshaped the way I thought.
Change your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and your focus.
Yeah, there's a huge theme of love is others focused, others centered rather than self-centered. And so yeah, that was really cool to learn. And then so that went for 3 months and I finished that, and I think God was leading there too, because I had the option to either go to Newcastle to do Bible working, because the Arise program ends up offering a Bible working position afterwards if you'd like to take that. And I was really interested in taking it because I wasn't sure. I didn't have anything else planned for the year. I kind of wanted to just commit this year to God. And so one of your friends that you've actually, Harley, if you haven't watched that video,
go watch the video where I interview Harley and Eliza about their kingdom marriage story. Go check it out. It's a couple of months ago.
So Harley came to visit as well at Arise, and he said he's a church pastor, and he said, look, my church really needs a Bible worker. Would you be willing to come and Bible work at my church? And so I was praying. I didn't know whether I should be going to Newcastle or coming back to Brisbane. And so I prayed, and I thought, I think I had 3 different things. I remember 2 of them. I think there was 3 different things that suggested I should. So one of them was Harley, obviously, asking me to come. And then another friend of ours, Sunny, he said, I'd really like you to come and Bible work in the same area. I'll try and see if I can work with Harley and get you at my church one day a week. And there was something else which I don't recall. But there were 3 things, and I was like, okay, I think I need to go back to Brisbane. And then it turned out that they cancelled the Arise students at Newcastle. And I wasn't interested, so there's this thing called Arise for Life, which you do after Arise, or you can do by working independently. And Arise for Life was going to be in Newcastle or...
So Arise for Life, it's basically a couple of different churches that like more closely associated with Arise. They take on people who graduated to do Bible work. You can go through Arise and just do it for your own personal discipleship journey, or you can do it as like a pathway to learn how to be a practical Bible worker, essentially, which is like a stepping stone in the direction of becoming a pastor, maybe something like that, but basically working in ministry or just being a lay person in ministry, essentially, that kind of thing. So Arise for Life, you had the opportunity to go and join one of these associated churches.
So either in Newcastle or on the what's the area? It's like just south of the Queensland border.
Like Tweed.
Yeah, Tweed area.
Kingscliff.
Right.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go there. So my option was Newcastle or Brisbane. And it turned out, I found out 3 weeks later that none of the students that decided to go to Newcastle actually went to Newcastle because the churches didn't need them. And so I thought that was an answer to prayer because I knew I didn't want to be in the other area. And yeah, it just worked out. I think that was another area where I was like, oh God, you're so good.
Yeah.
You've just worked it out exactly how I want it. Yeah. And then so I've been Bible working in Brisbane now.
Yeah. So you've been working alongside with our other friend Abby. You guys both been Bible working here in Brisbane, only half an hour away. So actually the church that you're at, it's really close to both of our hearts because it's the church that I spent the first 10 years of my life growing up in, and your parents actually helped plant that church.
Yeah.
Which is super, super cool.
Oh yeah, I think that was the other thing, is that my parents' church planted this church, and so I was like, that's such a cool thing. It would be so nice to go back and work at the church that my parents were involved in setting up.
And in like a similar way, I'm working at a church where my grandparents have been forever and my whole family has grown up in, and like now I'm the only one of my family who's even there currently.
That is so cool. That is very awesome.
So we're kind of twinning in that way a little bit. But yeah, so we hang out a fair bit now. So you're Bible working. Can you tell me what does your week look like as a Bible worker? Because we do different types of things as Bible workers. Every Bible worker's job is a bit different, but what do you do in your role?
So in my role, the mornings basically are doing a bit of research, reading up on different topics, I guess apologetics.
And preparing for
Bible studies, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The afternoons consist of either door knocking, which we've been doing a lot up until recently, or doing the Bible studies that we...
So what does door knocking involve?
So door knocking, so we knock on people's doors and we have a survey questionnaire and we ask questions such as... what's the greatest threat to physical health today, or what's the greatest threat to the community or society today?
In your opinion, to the person at the door. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Also, we want to run some programs through our church, so we kind of ask the people what they think would be beneficial for the community for us to run.
What kind of programs are on offer?
So there's programs like depression recovery, family management, financial management, which I think is really useful at the moment with the economy. And then there's health programs like quit smoking, weight management, nutrition, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that sort of starts a conversation, hopefully. And then we kind of lead into a bit more spiritual, kind of sussing out where their spiritual life is, whether they are Christian, seeking God, atheist, agnostic, whatever it is. Maybe someone from another religion, like Islam or Hinduism or something like that. And then I was still learning how to
interact with various types of people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and trying to encourage conversation when people have different beliefs to my own. But yeah, we're getting there. It's interesting, like we're learning a lot, and I think that's the nicest thing about it is I'm learning a lot about different people.
Yeah. So what's one of the biggest, most interesting things that you've learnt in this role so far?
I think one of the biggest things is never judge someone by their appearance. Honestly, the amount of times that I have seen someone, I'm like, they're not gonna say yes to a Bible study, like they're right off for sure. And then you go up to their door and they're like, whoa, like the timing of you coming here and knocking on my door is amazing. Like I'm super curious. I've been starting to read my Bible recently and I want to know more. I would love for you to share that with me. And like the amount of times, and Abby, my Bible working partner, has, like, we've both had conversations about it so often where we're like, that person, I didn't think that they'd say yes.
That's
and
so cool.
Yeah, they're the ones that are the most keen. So yeah, it's an eye-opener. Like, just remember, don't judge someone by their outward appearance.
Do you have any other stories, anything interesting about doing Bible studies with people? Like any crazy questions I've asked or anything like that?
Yeah, so we have people that are really, they're kind of reading the Bible probably more from a philosophical point of view, not so much for growth spiritually or anything like that, not so much for a heart connection with God, but they just want to know why the Bible is the way it is, what's it all about, and sometimes it's nice to actually talk to a person rather than trying to Google everything. And so yeah, that kind of can be really difficult because a lot of the time they have 1,000,001 questions, and trying to just stay on track and answer one question at a time and guide them through what the Bible is really about. It's like the gospel, the good news. Sometimes the Bible can seem like it's really judgmental and a bit hard to read, right?
A bit harsh sometimes.
Right.
At first glance.
Right.
Yeah.
But then just trying to show people the love of God through the Bible is the main focus that we have.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thank you for sharing about your testimony and how you've come to this point and the work that you do.
Yeah,
do you
honestly, if anyone is like feeling really distant from God or they just don't understand God, I think, like, I don't know, I realize sometimes it was my self-perception that was keeping me away from God. And when I really looked into the fact that God is love and God really only wants the best for people, and then there's a lot of other things involved. Like there's an adversary who is really trying to get in the way and convince people that God isn't real. And I think he tried convincing me of that, and realizing that that's a lie was really eye-opening and a huge relief. And yeah, my life, like, it's so much more positive now. I have like no anxiety. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've touched a lot on mental health in your story today. Like your fiance had mental health issues. You had all these people around you at that time who had mental health issues. Then stuff went on for you. You lost 2 people very close to you, and then that kind of was, I guess, the start of your spiral with your mental health issues that kind of dragged you away from God for a while. But in it all now, you don't struggle with that anymore, I can see, and coming, like, it's taken a long time to get to this point,
Right.
but God has been with you the whole time.
He was there the whole time. When I was trying to push him away, he was right there.
Yeah.
Like, he was really guiding my life. I could really see it through him opening and closing doors in my life, and I'm so grateful. I don't know what
Where do you think studying at Arise fits in with your mental health journey specifically?
I think Arise was really, as I said, I was kind of looking more at what the guidance that God was trying to give me in my life. I think Arise was really great because I'd been kind of looking for God a little bit and kind of seeking him out in my own time. But then, Arise was really the catalyst for taking it a bit further, really getting into the real depths of what God is all about. Because I'm sure most people that have read the Bible on their own, they're like, what is this all about? It's really hard to understand, and I need someone to kind of show me what it's all about. Because, yeah, I think you can get a lot from it that's really beneficial, but when you study with someone else, it's just so much better and so much easier to understand. So I think that was
to
really...
get these extra insights on, like, if you can just read the text and go, what does this even mean? But if you've got somebody else who's kind of done this a bit longer, who gets it, who's studied it a bit deeper, they can be like, well, here's like a little quick tip on this passage, or like what the whole theme of the Bible, or the theme of this passage, or the theme of this particular book, like what's it all pointing towards? What does it show us about God's character and who he really is, and why has he done all this stuff?
Right.
Yeah, it's really handy to
it's
have
really
somebody
amazing
who can
when
guide you through that.
Yeah, it's really amazing when you start having a real heart connection with God. And then, seeing it explained really in a plain way, like Arise did is.
Oh, mate, I love Arise.
Me too. I'd highly recommend to anyone who's questioning, absolutely, go and check it out. There's even Arise online.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to go. Like, it's available worldwide.
Yeah. So we have Arise here in Australia. So pretty close to the Gold Coast, essentially. If you want to look that up.
Maybe drop the link.
Yeah, I'll probably put the link for the website down below in the description box. But for those of you in Australia or the South Pacific, we have one here on the East Coast near the Gold Coast. And there's also a Rise in America for all of my American viewers out there. I believe it's in Oregon, Portland, Oregon. Is that right? I think that's correct. But you can go check that out. So if anyone out there is actually interested in studying the Bible a bit deeper, just for your own personal spiritual growth journey, or if you're thinking of getting into ministry, this is a really great way to get your feet wet without actually spending sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to university and years and years and years of your time. Like Arise Bible School or any other Bible school that's really, well done, would be really a great place for you to start doing this. You can do the Arise online course, which you can do at your own pace. I actually bought the Arise online a couple of years ago. I'm still very, very, very slowly getting through the content online, like 2 years later or something like that. But it's a good thing
life-changing
when you got
really
nowhere to go.
life-changing.
Yeah, it's absolutely really, really great. So if any of you guys are interested, the link will be in the description box below. If you have any trouble or you have any questions about that, my email address is also below, so you can get in contact with me there. Shoot me an email, just ask whatever you want. Thanks for that. Do you have any future plans? What's from here, or is it?
Yeah, well, I'm not really entirely sure what next year looks like, aside from I'm heading over to Finland at the start of next year, so I'm doing some mission trips. It's something that I love travel, so I feel like mission kind of combines that passion of travel.
I made a decision as a teenager, I think, that I was never really going to bother with traveling unless it was for mission work, which for me in my life has been many times already, so...
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, so it combines that love of travel with, like, the desire to share God with other people.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Otherwise, I'm not sure yet. There's many options that I'm sussing out, but I won't say anything yet. Just... I think God will open and close doors as he sees fit for me. But...
And I love that you're just submitting your life to God's will and just saying, hey, open and close whatever doors you want to, and I'll go, I guess.
Yeah. Like,
this is how I choose to live my life, and I really appreciate seeing somebody else almost as crazy as me. So
I wouldn't live life any other way. It's the best way.
It's so great.
It's so fun. It's just, you got to enjoy life. You don't get to live forever on Earth. You may as well.
Yeah. So, well, we will eventually.
But not this life.
Yeah, and I love how you say you got to enjoy life, but in the context of completely submitting your life to God. Like, if we try to run our own lives as you were trying to do earlier, you weren't enjoying life.
No.
Like, the best way to enjoy life is to let God be in control of it and give him, let him call the shots in every area. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. It's been so delightful.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. Before we go, I just want to remind you guys that there is 1 week left to apply for the Wait Bible study. So this is unrelated to our conversation right now, but you can just sit right there while I do the spiel. So for those of you who may not have seen last week's video, but you're seeing this one instead, the last day of this month of July 2022, I would like for you guys to get your applications in if you are interested in going through an online Zoom catch-up Bible study for about 8 weeks with me. We're talking about kingdom marriage. What is kingdom marriage even? Like, what is God trying to do in our lives for those of us who feel called to be waiting on God to give us somebody to marry and to do ministry with for the rest of our time here on earth. Many of us, I know, have been waiting for this for a while now. I've personally been waiting for 4 years, while knowing who the guy is for about 3 years, and still nothing's happening currently. But like, if there's anyone out there, you want some encouragement, you want to just connect with like-minded people who are on the same journey, you want to pray together for God's will and his timing, and for more revelation in our lives, and to see what the Bible has to say to set us straight on some of the things that we maybe have misunderstood. If you'd like to do that, please email me. Once again, the email address is in the description box below. Feel free to just put in the description, the title of the email, the Wait Bible Study, and in the content of the email, just give me maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs about what your journey has been so far, what you hope to get out of this time together in our Zoom sessions. Please try to get that in by the end of this month. So you got 1 week left, and then it'll probably be about another 2 weeks as I process the applications and get in touch with you guys about when would be a good time to actually meet up on Zoom for all the various time zones around the world. And we'll probably start in another 2 weeks, so about halfway through August is the plan. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I really love you guys. Thanks for coming back again. I will see you guys again next Friday. Bye!